Hey, Paul, this is part three. Is that right?
Yeah, part three, sure.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see if I got that right. Uh, Hi. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Good, man. If this is your first time watching this, hello. But as I
Hello.
said, as I said, this is part three, so you should probably watch part one and part two. But uh, hey, Paul, who are you and
Yeah,
what are we doing here?
that is a great question. Let me ask someone who I am. Give me 1 second. Since we're talking about AI,
There
who
you go.
is Paul Charkowski? What is ChatGPT?
Searching the
Ho-
web. I saw that.
Hopefully, I'm a big enough important person that it knows. Well, there, yeah. Oh, there it is.
A
Woo.
seasoned IT professional with 20 years. You're old,
Yeah.
man. You're old.
Oh, yeah. I'm a managed OpenShift black belt at Red Hat, where he helps bridge the gap between different IT teams, including development operations and security.
All right.
Before there, he worked all sorts of places, active speaker at tech conferences, although most of that is pre pre-Panny. And like,
Mhm.
wow, CodeCamp Wellington 2024. That was like 2018, I think. So it's not 100% accurate, but it's probably about as accurate as I would be if you asked me, because I would probably
Okay.
get it wrong as well. So does it know who JJ Asgar is?
Oh, yeah. Let's ask.
Or will it think that you're a footballer or something?
Exactly. Here we go.
Go. Oh, there we go. We're about to get an
Hey,
IBM. Woo!
nice, nice.
Now, we're
This is good
not
stuff.
actually doing a stream on ChatGPT, but I thought it would be fun to just ask it who we are. So I think maybe next time we'll see if we can figure out how to ask InstructLab or
Yeah,
Granite who we are and get a correct answer.
yeah,
So,
man.
coming soon.
Exactly. But hold
That's
on.
who we are.
Yeah, but
Hold
you
on.
said you said this InstructLab thing and granted. Well, what is this stream like? What are we doing here? What is the future person watching this video going to learn on this journey with us?
Right, that's a good question. So what we have been exploring the InstructLab project over
Mhm.
the last couple of streams. And InstructLab is a new way to take a large language model and kind of train it on domain-specific information. And so, uh, if I'm using an LLM for my organization, right, I don't want to necessarily start sending all my documents up to OpenAI for OpenAI to kind of analyze and include my documents in results. So what I want to do is have a model that is trained pretty well. Like you
Mhm.
want it to be pretty capable because it needs to be conversational. But you don't need the entire internet to be conversational. And I think the more of the entire internet you have, the more weird stuff you might get in results.
Yep.
And so actually what's nice is to have an LLM that's kind of just smart enough to talk to you, um, but doesn't necessarily know in depth about specific things. And then you can start teaching it about specific things that are focused at your domain. Um, and it's a way to pass information and train a large language model without needing to spend millions of dollars on GPUs and hardware and time and electricity to actually train a model from scratch, because that's really expensive and really hard. And
Mhm.
we have all these companies, private companies like OpenAI, which is weird to say private companies like
Mhm.
OpenAI, but it is what it is. And then you've got like a few things like that. You've got Amazon has something, Google has Gemini, Microsoft has Copilot, which is sort of built on top of ChatGPT slash OpenAI. But then you have your open stuff, where there's an alliance between, I think it's Facebook and IBM that
Mhm.
the I think Llama 3 is part of that, right?
Yep. That's correct.
And then I think is Granite and Merlinite part of that alliance as well, or is that like a separate thing that IBM brought to the table?
I don't want to give you the wrong information, but in my mind, at least at the time of this recording and this conversation, I lump them all together in one big thing, which I
Right,
believe is actually called the AI Alliance. I think that's
right.
actually what the thing is called. So if you do your homework, if you're watching us in the future, the AI Alliance is a thing. that has quite a few interesting players inside of it, and we are really trying to do the right thing when it comes to open source and, frankly, open core LLMs and AI.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting point in there. Like, listen to what we're saying, but like, don't take what we're saying as gospel. Verify, and you
Yep.
should do that with anything. Anytime someone tells you something, right? Including AI. Like, we'll make mistakes, and AI will hallucinate. So, you know, anytime you ask someone something and like it's an important thing, you should probably like validate that it's giving you an answer. You know, and the good news is if you're asking an AI about things that are inside of your domain, um, you probably have the expertise to give it a sniff test.
Mhm.
Like when I asked ChatGPT just before who I was, I immediately saw the Code Camp Wellington 2024 and said, "Oh, well, that's wrong. It's 2019." Right?
Mhm.
So I can fix that. Like I can just modify the text before I send it to, add it to my resume or why ever I'm generating this. Or I could actually say to ChatGPT, "Hey, dude, you're an idiot. It was actually 2019," and it would probably then
Yep.
fix that, right? So yeah, anyway, interesting tidbit is like, I think we worry a lot about, with the AI stuff, people will just blindly believe whatever
Mhm.
AI tells us. And I think we just need to remember that, like, uh, take it all with a certain level of skepticism.
Well, I mean, don't forget, Paul. I mean, I'm not saying this with tongue in cheek here. This actually does happen. Um, I know people who put addresses in their GPSs in their car or their sat nav or whatever you want to call it, or
Yep.
their phone, and they will blindly follow it to the point where people have driven into lakes before, right? Like
Right.
they've completely gone off the rails. So so I mean, verify stuff, people. Anyway, okay. Good. Well, okay, cool. So, with part three here, we're gonna shift a little bit, and we're gonna play with a pre-made environment, which Paul will bring up here momentarily, assuming he's still paying attention to me.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm
Um,
here. I'm here. I was just
there you
getting it
go.
ready while you were talking.
Perfect. And what we're going to do is we're going to go walk through this wonderful little example environment, so we can actually go through the whole process more so than we played with in the past. Admittedly, if you've watched part one and part two of this little stream, uh, yeah, we played with it, we've kind of gamed it, but we didn't actually show you the whole workflow. So luckily, Paul has found this for us. And where are we going?
Yeah, so this is a lab that we had at Red Hat Summit, which was like a month or so ago. And at Red Hat, we sort of have access to it through our demo system. It's not currently a public-facing demo system, but you could always ask your local friendly Red Hatter to, demo it to you and help you do this workshop if you are interested in it. So it has a bunch of stuff that we've kind of already talked about. What is it? What is it? Blah blah blah. So really, I'll just kind of get to the interesting bit. So, what's interesting is you can run this on a machine that doesn't have a GPU, like InstructLab and the chat interface. It's just probably going to be slow. So you want to have something that is has some sort of GPU or GPU-like characteristics. So the good stuff is like Apple from M2 onwards can share its RAM with its GPU. If you have a Linux system that has an NVIDIA GPU, you can use the CUDA stuff. And I think there's some work being done for AMD and even some of the Intel GPUs. So we'll probably see them soon if they don't already exist. And again, the actual InstructLab documentation tells you how to deploy InstructLab with the right settings for the different types of GPUs you have. But we can go straight to here. I've already what's the word? I'm already in my virtual env. I've already installed everything just for the sake of time. We've configured it, blah blah blah. And we've got downloaded the Granite model, and so we can just go ahead and
So hang on before we go
oh,
farther. You said a word that I know that if somebody is just watching this now might not
oh,
know. Granite. What is a granite model, Paul? Like
right. So
you
yeah,
just completely just like walked right past that one.
sorry. So there's there's two models we're going to be talking about today. One is Granite, and the other one is Merlinite. And they're both built by and distributed by IBM and Red Hat.
Mhm.
And they are, Granite is a very simplified model that is 100% trained by IBM on open source, as in open commons type information.
And correctly attributed. So if
Correct.
you are serious about attribution and copyright law, Granite is a foundational model that we have our lawyers even say this is okay to use.
Yeah, so much so that if you're using a Red Hat or IBM product that uses the Granite model, we actually indemnify you against anything. So if Celine Dion wants to sue you because her lyrics are in your model, that's IBM's problem to deal with, not yours.
Exactly.
And do we extend that to Merlinite as well?
So Merlinite is I don't want to make any crazy because obviously I don't want to give people the wrong information. Again, verify these things. But Granite's superpower is that it has been identified like that. Merlin has some open source narratives around it that actually comes from uh, Mis, Mis, Mistral AI, I think, and it's a purely open source model also that I
Right.
think Mistral AI supports. So that's the reason why, and it's also has it's a much larger model than Granite. Something that you need to realize very quickly is that the Mistral model, sorry, the Merlinite model is open source and has a lot more knowledge to overload that term compared to Granite, which is a foundational model, which has very stripped down amount of information inside of it, which gives you the advantage of what Paul was saying originally, the communication style, but it doesn't know much. So we need to give it more knowledge. And Paul, I think this is a perfect segue into what you're about to do.
Yeah, so while JJ was talking, I set up my iLab server and then my iLab chat client. And so, now we're talking to the Granite model. We're serving and talking to the Granite model. One thing I like to do here is actually run this NVIDIA SMI under a watch, and you can kind of see what it's doing. My font's big, so it's a bit hard to follow, but that's the amount of RAM that's being used on the GPU right now. So it's using 6 gig out of 24 gig. And then this is kind of the amount of the GPU itself that's going to be used. And so we should see this change as we're doing stuff. So we'll just leave that up and kind of see what happens. And so we can ask it a question. What's my favorite question, JJ?
There's a man of bats that is out there that we must know who
Right.
is
Who is
this man.
Batman? Right. It knows who Batman is. That's a very long response. To see if
And
I can do this.
it hit 67
Oh,
if you did
too
notice.
long. It's too
Oh, oh,
long.
oh, that is a lot of information.
Okay. In 20 words or less. There
There
we
we go.
go. All right.
Still think that's one.
Batman to DevOps.
I mean, that's not wrong. Like as a shot by, that I did see some stuff that seemed reasonable.
I'm not sure Batman has a strong focus on collaboration and communication.
He has Alfred. He collaborates with Alfred.
Come on, he's a lone wolf. Yeah,
He's got
when he's
Robin.
got Robin, but sure. Anyway, it's good to know that Batman and DevOps serve different roles. I don't know
Yeah.
why I did that, but we can get back to um, what the demo wants us to do. And actually, it wanted us to ask a question about OpenShift. So let's go ahead and make Daddy Red Hat happy and ask us about
I,
OpenShift.
I think your red
And
hat's
it,
showing if you're asking about OpenShift.
yeah, and it gives a good response, right? OpenShift, blah blah blah, by Red Hat, blah blah blah. Great. So we have a model that seems to have a reasonable grasp of general information. If I ask it, who is JJ Asgar? All right,
Wow. Oh no, it's the context because you asked about Batman.
right.
So
Yeah.
the
So in
context is
summary, JJ Asgar is a fascinating character in the DC Comics universe.
Yeah.
And technology in pursuit of justice alongside Batman and Bruce Wayne. So this is kind of where we have, like, it's a very generalized model. It's good at conversation, but it doesn't have a lot of information and context. So yeah. So we're doing InstructLab. So the question we should actually ask, because like it should probably know about itself. I'm gonna kill the NVIDIA screen there because we kind of saw what we wanted to see. I'll make this bigger. So what is the InstructLab project?
Actually, before you do that, do a
Oh,
/8. Okay.
sorry. What did you want me to do?
Do a /8/H for me real fast. We need a /N for a new session because I
Ah,
want to make sure it comes back with the correct, because there's a context window inside of iLab chat. And if we do, what is the InstructLab project there?
right.
That comes back
Oh,
with,
interesting. So when I asked
it's,
it in the old context, it said it didn't
yeah.
know much. And in this, it knows stuff, but it's all completely wrong.
Yeah. What
Right?
was that about K through 12? Did I see that there somewhere? Sorry, my
Yeah.
Americanism is showing there. K through 12 is schooling. If you're not American, um, a flagship product. Yeah, this is just wrong, right? Like, this
So
is just
the
wrong.
Granite model does not know about InstructLab. So we are going to train it. And we're going to train it by, let's kill chat. So taxonomy. JJ, why don't you give a little quick run through taxonomy?
Yes. So one of the superpowers of the InstructLab project is we have a taxonomy tree that is human readable for us to add new knowledge to the wrong word but right word brain of the model, right? So we have the conversational model of Granite, it can talk to us back and forth, but it doesn't know anything. Well, when you start injecting more information into it, you need a way for humans to understand, hey, this is how the conversation, or this is where the knowledge is. Arguably, you can dump this all in one big file. Don't do that because it's insane to maintain. So we created this taxonomy tree so humans can start looking through it. So Paul, humor me and go into taxonomy, maybe
What?
science.
Well, hold on. We're gonna make a new
Oh,
thing.
see, I
So
haven't
let's
actually. I friends at home. I haven't actually done this workshop, so that's why I asked that question. So he completely surprised me with that one.
okay. So this is the InstructLab um, taxonomy file, and so they're all called Q&A.yaml. What's the deal,
Yes.
JJ?
So we'll just to finish off that thought about the taxonomy. If you look at the very bottom, that highlighted white text. Nope, that was just a second ago. Where'd it go? Q out of that, and then up arrow. There we go. So if you see that text at the very bottom there, it says knowledge InstructLab overview Q&A.yaml. That taxonomy tree means that we were putting it inside of the knowledge folder. The InstructLab, logically speaking, as a human, you're like, I have knowledge. Now I need knowledge of InstructLab, and I need an overview of InstructLab. We have something called a Q&A.yaml file, which is a YAML file of questions and answers. Q&A, get it? It's a joke. Q&A. And what you do is you give it at least 5 questions, which are those seed examples right there, that you train it on to understand and learn about um, what the thing is you're looking for. So
But JJ,
in
this just dawned on me. Is Q&A like a pun because of its question and its answers, but it's also like DNA, but Q&A?
oh,
That
I think you're being more clever than you need to be, but that is pretty good. I'm going to double check that one. That's
you
pretty
should
good.
you should steal that and make sure that's in the InstructLab because that's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
I will run with that. That is actually really good. Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah. Wow. That was okay. Anyway, I'm a huge fan of my dad jokes too. Thank you. Um, So the whole point is, right, like you give it these questions. So then if you scroll all to the bottom of the file, Paul, from real fast, you'll see there's a document there. That document points to a repo. Um, .github. Oh, it's because it's okay. I was very confused for a moment. Um, where it has a source of truth of knowledge. right? So it has a document somewhere of this is the stuff that this is the chapter in your textbook. Remember back in the day when you were in school, you have chapters in textbooks and you have a bunch of questions at the end of the chapter to make sure that you understood what the chapter was about. In essence, that's what a knowledge submission is. You give it the chapter, which is this commit on GitHub, which is very important because we need to be able to trace it back to make sure it is the version that you're giving it to it. And then, yep, exactly. And then we will slurp that in and then we ask the model questions off of the Q&A. Now there's a step between called the synthetic data generation and a few other steps, but we're going to go over that. We'll go on that on another later date because that gets into more of the weeds. But for your use case in this one, Q&As are a way to say, hey, make sure that you understand what's going on here.
Right. So there's a source of knowledge document and then a bunch of Q&As that you feed into the thing. So we can make sure that iLab diff will just make sure that any new taxonomy files are put in are like valid files that it will be able to understand.
Sorry. And I do want to point, this is something that inside of our support channels that we have. This pops up all the time. If you are playing with this at home, 9 out of 10 times, if you're adding a new skill or a knowledge, you need to either add it to composition skills or the knowledge tree, and then the iLab diff will find it. If you decide to put it inside of the foundational skills directory, which I know is a little out of scope of this conversation, but it does happen a lot, iLab diff will not find it. So it needs to be in the correct, your Q&A needs to be in the correct location for it to be able to be working.
Right. So let's go ahead and serve the Merlinite model now instead of the Granite model. And we're going to do this because Merlinite is actually like way more intelligent, for lack of a better word, than Granite, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we need that because what we're actually going to do is run this generate command. And what this is going to do is it's going to read the Q&A file I gave it, and it's going to read the 5 questions and answers, and it's going to read the document that was provided. And then it's going to generate new sets of questions and answers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to compare that to the original set of questions and answers and see if the answers it's given are close enough and accurate enough to the example questions and answers. And then if it likes it, it's going to include it in the new Q&A. If it doesn't like it, it's going to go and dump it and not use that. So for the sake of this, and it can take some time, this is on GPU and it's still taking a bit of time, but it's set to do 5 questions. The default is actually 100 questions because you actually need a decent amount of content for it to understand. So it's going through and training, and like we don't have to sit here and stare at it. So we are on a short time span. So we're going to go ahead and cooking demo this. So we have in the models directory, we have Granite and Merlinite, right, which are the 2 we were using. And then we have this pre-trained one, which is basically Granite that's been trained with our new taxonomy by the Merlinite. So basically, Merlinite talks to Granite and says, blah, here is the new stuff you know, gets it fed into Granite's brain, and then we get this new model file that's spat out the other end. So we can now chat with this guy instead. Wait for it to finish getting ready to serve. Uh-oh.
Well, that's new. Connection refused.
Sorry, I did chat, not serve.
Yep.
Command. We need to serve it before we can.
Did you drop the cake out of the oven on that one, Paul?
I did. Luckily, we have extra cakes. All right. So now we remember we asked what is InstructLab, and it was very wrong.
Yep.
Now we're asking what is InstructLab, and
Hey.
it's going to be accurate. For the InstructLab project, blah blah blah. That's really long. In 20 words. And one thing here is it doesn't necessarily follow the 20 words. No, that's
That's
not
way
even
more than 20.
trying,
Yeah.
or less. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. So, I guess this is why prompt engineering is a thing, because
Yep.
there's a craft to speaking to AIs.
Yes.
In a way, there's a craft to speaking to Google. Like you and I have jobs because we learned very early on how to talk to Google to get the right answers, because
Very
often
much
the
so.
right answers aren't in our brains, or they are, but like there's a bunch of knowledge in our brains, and we use that to be able to
Mhm.
ask Google the right questions. It's the same with AI. The more context you have, and the more understanding you have about the system you're talking to, the better you can get at getting correct answers out of something. Um, and like when I've done this, like I can then build an agent that wraps how I ask questions.
Mhm.
Then someone else can use that agent that wraps the model, and they can actually ask it the questions they're asking will get better quality responses, or at least responses that I would be able to get out of them because I've trained them, which gives you interesting abilities to do stuff. Like I could do, I don't know, will this work? Um, but tell me as if you were Batman.
Mario. Oh,
Mario. Yeah, okay, Mario, sure.
Mario's a little more. There we go. Uh, oh, let's go. There we go. That's kind of
There we
close.
go. Let's go.
Let's go. There you go.
So
Hey,
even though it's a pretty stupid model, it's I guess has just enough Mario to you know.
I did learn about this command recently. If you do a /q for me, and then do an up arrow, and then do space dash dash q, or sorry, dash QQ. Sorry. Space, uh, put in quotes, who is Batman?
Oh, QQ must be a quick question.
That's right. Now, the interesting part about this is that this also has one context, right? So one of the questions we were talking about earlier with the different levels of is you do the interactive conversation, it remembers or remembers. I'm putting that in quotes, right? Remembers what's going on that, so it builds off of that context. The dash QQ or dash QQ right there, the quick question, is a single context window of that question right there. So to play off of what Paul was saying about building up that pipeline, we actually internally, for some of the projects inside of InstructLab, use actual dash QQ as the interface to talk to it for very specific things because we don't want long running context. We want to know exactly what the model knows at that time. So it's an important thing to keep in the back of your head.
Good. I was thinking of showing you something else that uh, I have been playing around with. And so I'm just trying to quickly set it up because it might be an interesting thing to end with.
As you're
But
doing that, well, as
yeah,
you're setting that up, I'll fill in a little bit more time here by saying that with that dash QQ also there, and you say who is Batman, to Paul's point, if you just created a pipeline of these models, you could have a considered a prompt before because it's just running in Bash, right? That's just a Bash command. So in theory, you could instantiate an upstream or a downstream command and an upstream command from somebody, so they can be like, hey, I need to know about, I don't know, money, right? Then you could create this quick question answer in a pipeline where when they put the send of the specific number, you're like, oh, you are not a financial advisor and you are always looking for this. You do the prompt engineering beforehand and take that question that they want and inject it in on the command line and then pull it back and then have that one line or one context sent back. I know that sounds really weird saying out loud, but if you imagine it as moving data down a pipeline, you can actually work with it in this way, which is helps you make sure that you get the information you need.
All right. Good. You did enough talking. I think I'm good to show off what I was going to show off.
And I probably can use a lot more people. I did it.
Let me show you real quick. Oh, that looks great. And I do that and then that. But just making sure I'm going to share the right things. Present something. So, YouTube. That's a great still shot of me. So we're putting these videos up on YouTube. So there's a part 1 up here, and there's a YouTube URL here. So I copy and paste that, and I'm using this tool called Fabric, right?
Okay. Sure.
And so I say there's a CLI called YouTube, and so I can say YouTube transcribe our conversation, right?
Okay.
Our video. And then I pipe it to Fabric, and I apply patterns. And patterns are basically those like prompt engineered prompts to get specific information out of them, right? And so I can have it effectively watch our video by getting a transcription from YouTube, and then like extract wisdom, right? And so it gives us a summary. Obviously, it fails at getting my name right. But ideas, so it talks about the ideas that we talked about, right? And so these are all pretty accurate. We talked about quantization, blah, blah, blah. And it has a list of insights. These are insights from what we talked about, a bunch of quotes.
Nice.
And so this is actually kind of a cool way to, like, if you want to know about a YouTube video, or you want to like effectively feed it any kind of document, right? And I think you can just do like extract summary. Not found. Anyway, there's a bunch of patterns. I can't remember what they all are.
Is Fabric open source?
Yeah, Fabric is open source, and all the patterns are open source as well. So you can pretty easily build out your own patterns to make it specific for you. But I thought this was kind of a cool thing to show off, because it kind of, is a cool AI thing, and we're all looking at cool AI things.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. This is awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah. And the other thing I like about Fabric is it's the Unix way, right? Like I just pipe things around, and it's really cool.
I'll just file. So we walked through. I guess to wrap up the video, because I feel that's kind of where we are now. We walked through the tutorial from the Red Hat Summit, which is great. Hopefully that piques some of y'all's interests. As Paul was saying, if you want to actually do it yourself, reach out to your friendly Red Hat representative. I dare say we could even, throw up his email address and get a bunch of emails for him, but we're not going to do that to him. There you go. Those eyes was worth it. So we've gotten that far. We had got a plan for a couple more of these streams. Paul, what are your last thoughts?
My brain is empty.
Okay, that works for me. I just want to say thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Peace.